I'm going to use data science techniques to see who was better for inflation, Trump, Biden, relative to the Obama years. Now, look, there are a lot of ways that people could compare the rates during these time periods. And honestly, presidents may not have a lot to do with inflation anyway. I'm going to take advantage of one data science approach that I think other people don't really use to attack this problem and will give some interesting insights. And worst case, it gives you some data science causal inference practice. Now, I'm going to have to cut this video down for TikTok, but if you want the full video, it's going to be at the YouTube link below. And if you want the code, go to the linked account. I've got my website, what'stheimpact.com, and you can get the code available there as well. Okay, the first thing I do is get data. Google IMF inflation data by country and download the all country Excel file, and you'll get the same data too. The next thing I'm going to do is set up a difference in differences using other advanced economies. Now, these are going to include Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, France, and Japan. Together with the United States, these make up what's called the G7. Now, it's usually good practice whenever you're doing difference in difference is to plot the two time series. So the blue is the United States, the inflation rate from 2000 to 2024, while the red line is the average of the other G7 countries over the same time period. Some things to notice here. Prior to the financial crash, they didn't really track each other very well. And so, because that's far enough away in time and they didn't track each other well, I'm going to get rid of those years. Next, you can see during the Obama years, and the inflation rate was actually very comparable to the other G7 countries in the United States. However, leading into the last year of Obama and into the Trump years, the inflation rate started to become a little bit higher relative to these other countries. Finally, we see this big spike up during Biden years, and that's what he's getting hammered on. But keep in mind that the other countries around the world are going through the same inflation too. But again, the US inflation rate is still higher than even these other G7 countries. So when setting up the difference in difference, I have a treated dummy that is going to equal 1 whenever the country is the United States. And I've reordered this data into panel data, so it's country by quarter. I then have a flag for the Trump years being any time the observation years between 2017 and 2020. Now, this is going to be for all countries, not just the United States. Same thing with the Biden years. It's going to be a flag. This is going to equal 1 for any time the year is between 2021 and 2024 inclusive. Again, that's going to be any country. Okay, now the important part is going to be the interaction term. So I have a dummy USA Trump if treated is 1, so if the country is the United States, multiplied by the Trump years dummy. And USA Biden is an interaction between the country being USA and it being during the Biden years. So when we look at the results of the difference in difference, the keys are these interaction terms, USA Trump and USA Biden. What we notice here is that relative to the Obama years, the USA during the Trump years was higher than the other G7 countries, but so was the Biden years. Now, in this model, none of those results are statistically significant. Now, one way to improve the precision is to actually add country level fixed effects. And in this case, we see really both of those results go to statistically significant. That's suggesting that inflation in the US relative to the other countries during both the Trump and the Biden years were elevated relative to the Obama years. Now, the estimate is a little bit higher for the Biden years. However, we can run an F test. And this suggests that the difference that we see, the 0.58 and the 0.47, with the volatility in these results, there is a nearly 80% chance of getting results that large, a difference that large, by chance alone, even if there was no real difference between the two. So basically, there is no statistical evidence that inflation during the Biden years, when we compare the US versus other countries, did worse than during the Trump years, again, comparing the US versus other countries. However, during both the Trump and Biden years, they both meaningfully underperformed relative for inflation relative to the Obama years. Of course, again, keep in mind a lot of inflation is due to monetary policy. It is due to what the central bank is doing and what other events going around the world. It's not necessarily true that the president has a whole lot of control over inflation.